This is Caesar de Bello Gallico IV, chapter 25. We last left Caesar and the Roman army. They were attempting to invade Britain for the first time, but they were running into a spot of bother because they were unable to disembark, and the Brits were on dry land, and they were keeping the Romans from doing an effective unloading of their transport ships. So the Romans couldn't make a good landing. And quod ubi Caesar animadvertit, naves longas, quarum et species erat barbaris inusitatior, et motus ad usum expeditior, paulum removeri ab onerariis navibus, et remis incitari, et ad latus apertum hostium constitui, atque inde fundis sagittis tormentis hostes propelli ac submoveri iussit. Quae res magno usui nostris fuit. Well, that didn't seem too difficult. Quod ubi Caesar animadvertit. The quod here, the relative, is first because it relates back to the entire scene that was described in the previous chapter, in chapter 24. So the whole thing. Which thing? Ubi we're going to translate first. So when, subject, yavoi, Caesare, there's Caesar. When Caesar animadvertit, when he adverto, he turned his anima, his mind, and he turned his thought to quod, to which thing. English prefers the demonstrative over the relative, to this thing, the fact that his men were having such trouble disembarking. So when Caesar noticed this thing, oh, my dudes are having trouble hacking the Brits' base. Naves longas. Now that could be nominative. Now the naves could be nominative or accusative, but the longas tells us that we're dealing with the accusative here, direct object. The main verb is all the way down there at iussit, because of course it is. This is Latin. So he ordered or bid the naves longas, the long ships, the warships, quarum et species erat barbaris inusitatior et. So we have correlatives et and et. Quarum is a relative, genitive, plural, feminine. Its antecedent are the naves longas, which are also accusative, plural, feminine. Both of them are plural, feminine, whereas naves longas is accusative, quarum is genitive, because inside its own relative adjectival clause, it needs to be genitive. Out of which, the species, both the species, the kind, the appearance, it's what you look like, your species, your kind. Both the appearance erat barbaris inusitatior was comparative, rather unusual to the dative barbaris. Barbaris is dated with the adjective inusitatior, the appearance of which was rather unusual to the barbarians. The Brits were looking at the ships like, I don't quite know about that. Et motus ad usum expeditior. So the Brits didn't like they were weirded out by the appearance of the warships, and the motus and the movement of which, meaning the warships, erat expeditior was more unencumbered, was flightier, was more fleet, ad usum, for the advantage, I would say advantageously. The movement of which was advantageously more flighty. Paulum removeri ab onerariis navibus et remis incitari. Now we have all these at, so we have quite a bit of polysyndeton here. So paulum removeri, so the naves longas, that's going to be the subject accusative of iussit, so he orders them to removeri paulum, to be moved back, paulum, a little bit, paulum being the accusative singular neuter accusative of distance. How far? A little bit, paulum. To be moved back a little bit screams out for an appellate of separation, ab onerariis, from the transport ships, the load-bearing ships, et remis incitari, and to be urged on, spurred on by oars, by an onrush of oars. So by rowing very hard, you could even say, and by rowing very hard, an onrush of oars, by onrushing with oars, speeding forward with oars. Remis is ablative means. Et ad latus apertum hostium constitui, and to be constitui, set up, taken up position, have the position taken up, ad latus, at the apertum latus, the open side, the exposed flank, hostium of the enemy. So the Roman transport ships, which are you can tell by the name, onus onerariis, burden, load bearing, they're rather clunkier and more load bearing, rather more like tubs than the fleet and sleek naves longae, the warships, the triremes. So the onerariis, the transport ships, are a ways out into the water. They can't beach properly because the water is not deep enough for the ships, but it's too deep for the Roman soldiers to disembark properly and safely. So the soldiers are having a bit of a problem, but Caesar sees an opening. So he sends the warships to be moved away from the transport ships, and they kind of go off on the side, and they, I would imagine constitui means that they hold position, so they probably drop anchor at the enemy's exposed flanks. So they are closer to the beach on the other side than the transport ships. The transport ships are a little ways out. So the warships are going to offer some firepower, some cover, so that the Romans can disembark the transport ships. Atque inde fundis, and then, atque being a souped up and then inde, thence, from that place, from that position, meaning the one that they constitui, took up at the enemy's exposed flank, and from that position, thence, from there, fundis, sagittis, tormentis, and with slingers, with arrows, fundis, sling bullets, with arrows, with tormentis, tormenta. That's the Latin word for artillery. We get the word torture and torment from this, where that has to do with twisting. Torture and torment has to do with twisting. So the Roman artillery has to do with twisting cords. Originally it was horsehair. So we're talking about like ballistae, probably not siege onagers or anything like that. These are probably the ballistae that shoot arrows, the larger than normal arrows. They're wound up rather like a crossbow. So that's what the twisty, the torment part of the word means, is that twisting cords. And then you pull the cords back so that you can launch a projectile. These are probably arrows that they're launching, but you could also launch rocks and incendiaries. So we have fundis, sling bullets, which if you get hit, in the face, that could be a bad day for you. Sagittis, those are arrows, and tormentis, artillery. So that by means of the sling bullets, arrows, and artillery, hostes, the enemy, propelli ac submoveri, be moved back, propelled, pulsed, pushed back, and submoveri, and moved away, pushed back and moved away. So the warships they sail around to the enemy's exposed flank, because the enemy's on the dry land, they're on the beach. So the warships find an open side where they can sort of set up to offer some cover for the transport ships. The soldiers on the decks of these warships, they start slinging their bullets and shooting their arrows and launching projectiles from the ballistae. And then the enemy are to be propelli, to be pushed back and moved off. Quae res, which thing? Notice that the res is inside the relative, and it agrees with the relative. It's referring to the antecedent is the whole preceding thing. Which thing? All of that stuff that Caesar noticed and ordered, quae res, all which thing, fuit, was a magno usui nostris, double dative, was a magno usui, was a great advantage, was for a great advantage, the purpose of being a great advantage, nostris, dative of reference to our men. Notice the viris is of course implied, like usual. which thing was a great advantage to our men. Yeah, it helped our guys out a lot to offer them some cover so they could disembark properly. Nam et navium figura et remorum motu et inusitatior genere tormentorum per moti barbari constituerunt ac paulum modo pedem retsulerunt. Nam, for, explanatory conjunction. Then we have et, and then et, and then et. So correlative conjunctions. For, I would translate this in English with an Oxford comma. For, because of there should be macron over the a in figura to correspond with the ablative motu and the ablative inusitatior genere. For, because of the figura, the shape or the form of the ships. Because remember, the ships, the species, the appearance of these ships was inusitatior, was rather unusual to the barbarians. For because of the shape of the ships and the movement of the oars, what are those? Oh, those are oars. Scary. And because of the movement of the oars and the unusual, they're in usus, they're not used to this, the unusual kind of tormentorum of artillery, per moti barbari. So per moti, perfect passive participle, it agrees with the barbari. The barbari were per moti, they were alarmed, they were disturbed, they were upset, they were not happy. And why? The ablative of means figura motu and inusitatior genere. For the barbarians, having been alarmed by the shape, the form of the ships, the movement of the oars, and the unusual kind of artillery that was wrecking them, they constituerum, they halted, they stopped, they consto, they stood their ground, they stood there. Ac paulum modo pedem retulerunt, and they refero pedem, they bore the foot back, paulum modo, just a little bit, and they retreated just a bit, just a little bit, paulum, another accusative of distance. Atque nostris militibus cunctantibus maxime propter altitudine maris, qui decimae legionis aquilam gerebat obtestastus Deus, ut ea res legioni feliciter eveniret, desilite inquit, milites, nisi vultis aquilam hostibus prodere, ego certe, meum rei publicae, atque imperatori officium prestitero. All right, and then, atque. And nostris militibus cunctantibus. Well, at first glance, stative or ablative, probably thinking, well, this is the usual place we've seen by now for an ablative absolute. It is not, though. This is actually a dative, and it's dative because it's the indirect object of the main verb inquit. This is whom the Aquilifer addresses. To our soldiers who were cunctantibus, delaying. And why are they cunctor, delaying? Maxime, mostly, especially propter, on account of the accusative altitudine maris, the depth of the sea. So the Romans they need deeper water to beach the ships properly, the transport ships properly, but the water is too deep for the soldiers themselves to fight properly. They're too encumbered. They can't fight properly against the Brits. So, qui decimae legionis aquilam gerebat, the one who was gerebat, who was wielding or carrying the aquilam, the eagle of the decimae legionis of the 10th legion. Remember that the eagle, the aquila, is the symbol of the legion. There's one per legion. That the loss of the aquila was one of ultimate disgrace, and the legion was disbanded. Obtestatus Deus. Agreeing with the subject of the sentence is the qui decimae legionis aquilam gerebat, which all of that relative clause equals Aquilifer, the noun Aquilifer, the guy who carries the eagle bearer. So he who was bearing the eagle for the 10th legion, you could just say the Aquilifer of the 10th legion, obtestatus Deus, having called the gods as witnesses, testor, as testament. Ut, so that. Why did he call the gods as witnesses? So that. Ea res, this matter, this situation, this whole affair, venire, it might turn out, feliciter, okay, happily, luckily, fortunately, I would say fortunately, so that this affair might turn out fortunately legioni, for the legion. He inquit, he said, spake he, saith he, the Aquilifer. I would say he shouted, he probably did shout. And this is where the dative comes in. He shouted, he said, nostris, to our soldiers, delaying, particularly because of the depth of the sea. So soldiers don't want to jump off the ship. Why? Because it's deep. Deep water. They could fall in. Don't know if I'm going to hit the bottom. And the Aquilifer calls in the gods as witnesses so that the thing might turn out fortunately, happily, luckily. And then he says, decilite, imperative, plural. Jump down, milites, vocative, direct address. Jump down, soldiers. Nisi, unless, if not. Nisi, if not. Vultus, unless you want. That is the second person plural of volo vele, present tense. Unless you want, unless y'all wish to prodere, to surrender, or to abandon, or to, here it's stronger, betray, the aquila, the eagle, to the hostibus, to the enemy. Jump down, soldiers, unless you want to betray the eagle to the enemy, to hand, it's prodare, to hand the eagle over to the enemy. Remember, the loss of the eagle means that the legion is disbanded in disgrace. Ego certe, I, ego, the emphatic I. We normally don't put the pronouns in Latin unless we want to emphasize who's doing what. So this is an emphatic I with certe. So the pronoun with certe here, it means something like I at least I, not you guys, but I, at least I, meum, rei publicae atque imperatori officium. Meum and officium go together, and everything in between them, the rei publicae atque imperatori, is emphatic and goes with meum officium. And that's why the meum officium frames it, goes around rei publicae atque imperatori. You're supposed to translate them together. That's why they go together like that. I, at least, praestitero, will show meum officium, my duty, yes, I said duty, to datives rei publicae atque, and also imperatori, my general. And at this point, Caesar certainly blushed. I, at least, will have shown my duty to the Republic and to my general. So soldiers, jump down with me unless you want to betray the eagle to the enemy, because here I go. At least it can be said that I will have shown my duty to the Republic and to the general. You cowards. Notice emphatically atque imperatori. Not just that we're not doing this for the good of the Republic, we're not doing this for the good of the Roman people or the empire, we're also doing this for the good of Yaboy Cesare, imperatori, for the general. Hoc cum voce magna dixisset. Hoc is the emphatic word. It's placed outside of the cum clause, so we have cum voce magna macron over the second a, so it's ablative, dixisset. When, after he had dixisset, said hoc, this thing, voce magna. Classical Latin doesn't really have a word for loud. Later on we get like sonorous, but it does. We don't really have an adjective that means loud. So we usually use magna with words that denote sound, so like vox. So magnavox, magna vox, means great voice or loud voice. So this is an instance in which magna can mean loud. So after he said this in a loud voice, when he had said this in a loud voice, se ex nave projecit, he threw himself, say ex nave, you should read nave for navi. He threw himself from the ship, with the eagle by the way, atque, and in hostes aquilum ferre coipit, and he began to ferre, to bear the eagle in hostes towards the enemy. Dude, no. But this is the way that he's going to spur his fellow soldiers into action, because he thinks they're being a little bit cowardly. What, you guys are scared of a little water? Well, fine, here, I'm going to run pell-mell towards the enemy with the eagle. If they take it, then, you guys are out of a job. Oh, I think we'd better jump after him. Tum, then, thereupon, nostri, notice the implied viri, our men, cohortati inter se, having encouraged one another, inter se, having encouraged each other, you go. No, man, you go. No, you go. You first. No, you go. No, I said it first. Ne tantum dedecus admitterator. Best translation of ne is lest. Lest, so that not. Why did they cohortatus each other? Why did they urge and encourage themselves? So that. Lest, so that not, tantum dedecus admitterator, so that not lest so great a shame, a dedecus, something that is indecorous, indecorum, something that is shameful. Lest so great a shame be admitted, be allowed. Notice it's passive. Universi ex navi dissiluerunt. Universi means universal, as a whole, as a body. As a body, so all together. They grabbed hands and they all together dissiluerunt, jumped down ex navi. Once again, for navi, read nawe. They jumped down from the ship. So they watched him do it. Then they hyped each other up so that they not shame each other. And then all together they jumped down from the ship. Hos item ex proximis primi navibus cum conspexissent, subsecuti hostibus ad proprinqua verunt. Great word at the end. Hos item, and likewise these guys, hos, accusative plural masculine, these dudes, ex proximis, from the nearest, primi navibus. Well, primi is going to be, that looks nominative, ex proximis navibus, ablative, separation, or from. Cum conspexissent, and there's the cum. So when primi, these first guys, caught sight of these guys from the nearest ships, they subsecuti, they followed up and aproprinqua verunt, and they approached the enemy. So likewise, when people from other ships caught sight of these guys jumping down, then they did likewise. They subsecuti, they followed up and they approached the enemy. So they can finally make a proper landing. And now they can fight the Brits on dry land.